Snowpiercer.
Hello, my name is Jameela Jamil. I am an actor, a writer, a host, and an activist. And three of the causes that I care most about in my activism are mental health, social justice, and climate change. And the show that we are discussing today manages to incorporate all of those intersectionally alongside so many other incredibly important subjects. I'm talking about TNT's new smash hit, Snowpiercer. So the show begins after an environmental catastrophe induces an ice age, and the final remaining human beings on Earth occupy a train with 1,001 cars. It is called the Snowpiercer. A rigid class system maintains order, with first class holding power over workers while a condemned prison class struggles to survive. And so I am so lucky to be sitting down with the show's EP and director, James Hawes, and one of its stars, Steven Ogg. Congratulations on this astonishing pilot. It's one of the best pilots I've seen in years. I'm in. I am sold. I am here through to the end. James, would you kindly explain this astonishing world that you've created?
Most TV shows, most films you tell, you can imagine your way to a bar, to a restaurant, to a journey down the street. The extraordinary thing about this one is the whole cast for the whole season are trapped in a long metal tube. And you've got to find a way to make that world feel believable, for that community to be interesting, for it to develop enough. And so that was a spectacular creative challenge and one of the things that drew me to the whole idea.
And how would you say it differentiates from the originals?
I love the movie. It's one of the reasons I came to the TV series. But it's limited in time. It's a very linear story. There isn't an awful lot of room to discover other characters. It has an essence of the world that we then took on and I hope grew further.
Steven, you are wonderful in this show, and I really enjoyed the fact that you just burst onto the screen in such a gripping way. Would you tell me a little bit about your character and his story?
My character Pike is in part of the tail. So the tail is the end of the train, the tail of the train. So 1,001 cars long. And you have the engine, and you've got first class, and you continue to go down 1,001 cars through all of these different sections. You get us.
And will you tell me a little bit about Pike's backstory and why he's so bloody intense?
Pike could have been the nicest guy. And we're starting 7 years into this journey where he might have tried all of the nice things to do, but we're seeing this section, this part, where he's now snapped.
What drew you both to this project?
It's the world building. Stephen's been touching on it, but the opportunity to decide what the world was that they physically work in. How do we make this set feel like a train? You know, one of the things we came across was that there was no such thing as a traditional wide shot in making this. Everybody is in the shot. The background actors, the supporting cast are always there. So we had to work with the whole population, give them stories, every individual, and the scale of that kind of challenge. Then how do we make sure that the ride the viewer gets is thrilling and always developing and always accelerating?
And what about you, Steven?
I mean, it was obviously an opportunity to work, which I always said.
I can still remember your audition tape because you couldn't come in straight away and you sent us a tape. You did a self-tape. But there was no question that once we met Steven on tape for this role, there was only ever going to be one Pike.
You had such a diverse cast. What was that process like? What were you looking for?
A super diverse, interesting mix of people. You know, the idea was this is the end of humanity. This is what's left of humanity all in one little world. And so we wanted to reflect the planet, pretty much, or at least those that had managed to get to Chicago to get on the train for whatever reason.
This whole show in itself is such a mammoth. How long was the script process? How long did it take to film?
They started writing from the beginning of the year, so I guess it was about 8 or 9 months to get at least the opening episodes ready to shoot. One of the thrilling parts of working on a show like this is it can grow as you're shooting. You learn what's working. You start to develop the world and the characters. We'd have ideas as we'd build a new set and we'd say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they had a battle here or a love scene there or whatever.
Yeah, and look away, James. Cover your ears. But what was James like to work with? I mean, working with such an ambitious director who seems to have no respect for limits whatsoever, clearly.
As a director, James is not only approachable, but open. Mm-hmm. And like any good director, can be open and can nod and say, yeah, that sounds great. You're not doing that. Or, great, but no, you're going to do this. And because you might not, as an actor, understand it, because you're sort of like, what do you mean? It's not all about me? Guess what? It's not. I know the world. I know what I need to see. And James had the vision of the world.
Will you both talk to me about Daveed Diggs and Jennifer-Connelly and what it was like to work with them, who they play within the show, and what it was like to work with both of them?
Jennifer plays... it appears to be the head of hospitality on the train. I don't want to give any spoilers here, but it's safe to say she is the voice of the train, the person you hear telling you how the train is running on a given day and what the temperature is outside. But yeah, you'll find out that her role is a lot more complicated than that. She is such a professional, meticulous, intelligent, generous actor. I know this sounds all schmoozy, but this was the nature of this cast. Daveed, he's one of the senior members of the community in The Tale. He has a past as a homicide detective, which we will come to discover. He's also somebody who's going to be at odds with Pike. We're meeting the two silverbacks of the train here. We're meeting the two energies.
Yeah, I think something I really loved about your dynamic with Daveed, Stephen, is the fact that, you know, when you go back historically through oppression being overturned by the oppressed, it always takes two very different energies. The way that the two of you bounce off each other, what was it like to work with him and to reenact that balance?
I would say probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, when Daveed and I had an intense scene together or any conflict, I think I shed tears 8 or 9 times out of 10, like just emotionally, because he is so available and so wonderful.
What would you say was the biggest takeaway that you learned from shooting and creating this epic show?
Never limit your ambition.
Never limit your ambition. Okay. And Stephen, what would you say was your biggest takeaway from this? Because I imagine there's nothing that any of the actors in the show have ever done that's quite similar.
It's almost like when one asks what a favorite scene of a show or that you shot. I really don't remember that stuff. You take away the relationships. Cast, crew, it was a really, really wonderful, continues to be wonderful group of people.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me and explaining to me the mammoth effort that went into making this epic show. I'm so excited for people to see it. There's nothing else like it on television at the moment, and I can't wait to see where the story goes.